here at Gold Heat, we use a digital multimeter to verify a few things with our products. We use it to check the factory resistance of the mat to make sure that there is nothing funky going on with it and that nothing happened during shipping. We use it to verify continuity within the mat to make sure that there is no breaks or crushes, staples within it. And then we use it to verify that the circuit providing power to the mat is actually working. So one of the main things that we check with our Gold Heat products is the factory resistance of it. And so here is a black gold panel that we have mocked up. And to measure resistance of this, right, for a traditional fluke multimeter like this, you would just turn it all the way to the omega symbol right there. That'll check for resistance of the mat or the circuit. This is an auto ranging meter, so you can just kind of set it and forget it and then measure, and it'll tell you anywhere from the milli range up to the possibly mega range. For a meter like this that is not auto ranging, you will switch it over to the omega sign, and some of them, they will have ranges on it, right? And so you'll want to check the cold lead to see that, hey, we're supposed to be measuring 2,880. If there was a setting for, I don't know, 3K, that would be perfect, right? Because 3K ohms would be 3,000 ohms. That's less than what this tag is, so you would be able to measure it. So I'm going to test with the fluke. So we'll move that one over there. And for measuring a mat, right, you want to isolate your cold leads here, right, from any sort of circuit, because you're going to be measuring the path of least resistance, right? And so you just want to take all factors away from it and isolate it. Then from here, you're going to touch your probes to each of the leads, right? And careful not to touch these together because it'll measure the path of least resistance. And so from here, as you can see, we are measuring about 2.75 kilo ohms or 2,750 ohms. Yeah, right there. And our tag says that it was 2,880. And what we're looking for is plus or minus 10% of that. So we're within range, and that would be how you check the factory resistance. The next test that we do for our products is the continuity test. And it's arguably one of the most important for any sort of service. It's going to tell you the health of the mat, tell you if anything got cut, or a staple hit it, anything like that. And so we're going to be checking continuity of the actual heating elements, and then we're going to make sure that there's no continuity to ground. For a fluke meter, you're going to turn it just back to the resistance setting, so the omega, and then what I like to do is turn on the sound here so that if you were to touch it, it gives you an audible tone if the circuit is complete. For this style of meter, you're actually going to go past the omega into what looks like a sound symbol there, and it will do effectively the same thing. Now, for actually testing on a Gold Heat mat, once we're in our setting that is correct for checking continuity, you're going to want to make sure that there is continuity between white and black, because those are your out and back for your heating mat. And what it's doing is making sure that there's a clear path for the power to go and return on. So that is what you're checking first. And again, careful not to touch it. And with that tone, that's saying that our mat is good and continuous. The next thing we'll check is to make sure that there is no continuity between any of our heating wire and the ground braid that is around it. And so there is no audible tone there, which is good. And then we're going to check the other side. And there's no audible tone there. So by checking those things right there, this mat now is determined to be healthy and ready to be used and tiled over. So the last thing that we like to and that we recommend checking when you are working with Gold Heat products is voltage. And voltage is really important because it's going to determine if you have power to your mat. It's probably our second most common thing that we get service calls about, is that it ends up being that there's no power to the mat. And so the way to check to make sure that you would have that is, I'm going to show you with a power strip here, but the same sort of thing would go for a circuit breaker or a wire that is going into a thermostat. And what you would do is you're going to turn your meter to voltage mode, right? And so we have two settings. Your first one with the squiggly line, right, or the sine wave, that is for alternating current or AC. The setting here with the V with the dashed and the solid line on top of it is for direct current or DC. All houses use AC alternating current, so we're going to turn ours to the alternating current voltage mode. For this style of meter, it will be almost the same exact setting. It's just over here, and it says AC volts. Again, if yours is not an auto ranging meter like this one, you would have to choose the setting that would most fit the application that you're doing. So for houses, it's normally 110, 120, or 210 or 220, 240. So choose something that's maybe a little bit less than 300 volts, and that will be great. So I'll turn that one off and move those to the side. And so when you're checking voltage, again, you want to make sure that your circuit is isolated, and so that you can check the potential between the two voltage carrying conductors, right? So, and what I mean by that is that there's nothing plugged into your main circuit. And so what we'll do is, for this test, we will put our probes into these two leads, and it's going to tell you the difference between them. So from red to black, it is 120 volt difference, right? If you were to measure them backwards, again, 120 volt difference. I do want to say that this is the only test where we do it with a live circuit. So when you are using your probes, be careful not to touch them as you are touching live circuits. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You touch the two different sides and it'll tell you the potential difference. And I'm just explaining the very basics of these meters in what is used for checking gold heat mats and circuits. If you want to learn more, there are tons of videos online that go very in depth into all the different features that these incredible devices can test.